welcome to a new Harry's Garage, and today's car is the Jaguar Project 8, my car that was delivered just about a month ago, and I've done 1,600 miles in it, and it's high time I gave you a bit of a tour around and also go into the detail of, well, just the order in it, why I bought a Project 8, and then, rather than just doing a road test around the roads around here, I thought it'd be quite fun if I dusted off my V-Box Sport, attached it, and I've organised a test track up the road, and we'll go there and we'll do some acceleration runs and just see how flipping quick this car is. Well, it all started really at Goodwood 2017, which was the first opportunity when you saw this car, and prospective owners were given this wonderful brochure. You can just sort of see this appearing on eBay in a few years' time, but this basically gives you a rundown of the car, lovely detail in there, all sorts of things, and highly tempting, lovely paint finishes and things. And prospective owners were given this, and they had like a letter of intent. Do you want to buy one of these cars or have the opportunity? So fill one of those in. Then you sort of forget about it, and then come March this year, it was the time to decide whether you wanted a Project 8 and to spec it and decide on your paint and all the rest of it. And I was sort of hesitated, do I actually need a four-door crazy Jaguar in my life? I've been thinking about getting a GT3, swapping my GT2 Evolution out for a GT3, whether a 991 or 997. Ferrari FF still looked tempting, etc. So those are sort of on the shopping plate. But then this was a curveball from nowhere. Four-seater, usable, crazy car that is basically a Porsche GT3 or a Nissan GTR in a Jaguar four-door body. And I was given the opportunity to drive a car, and I just couldn't believe what it could do. And took a brave pill back in March and ordered one up. And then you get into the thing, oh, well, if I'm going to have this car, what colour is it going to be? There was an opportunity to do bespoke colours. And my favourite colour on a car is purple. Don't know why, I just love purple. It sort of harks back to this motorbike, this Kawasaki H2, this two-stroke triple. That was my dream bike when I was growing up. When I was 17 and was running around on mopeds, there was one of those in purple. That was it. As far as I could say, that was the best thing in the world. I've never thought I'd own one, and a few years ago I bought one, and I utterly worship it. It's a useless bike in lots of ways. It vibes, lots of two-stroke smoke. It's incredibly exciting. I just love the looks. I like the purple Porsche used on their cars as well, but I don't think a solid purple would actually work on a Project 8. Anyway, long story short, I decided I was going to have a purple Project 8, what colour, what coding to choose, and this is actually an Audi Merlin purple rather than Kawasaki purple, and here it is. So that's the background to it being purple, and I'm overjoyed with it. I went for bespoke as well, which means it just added a few more details. It meant you could choose a different colour around the grille here. This is the same colour as the stripe, which is an option on it. Just little details. They were going to put colour on the side of the spoiler, rear spoiler. I didn't think it worked quite well, but you get a bespoke sort of tread plates and a lovely little badge in solid silver. It's hallmarked just on the front of the dash as well. So there's the background of how it all was ordered up. Let's just go and show you a few more details on the car. Now, when you order a Project 8, one of the first boxes you come across is, do you go for the track pack that includes fixed back, 2 seats in the front and a cage in the back? Or do you go for the standard 4-seater version? Well, obviously I went for the 4-seater version, and I'm actually quite surprised how much room there is in here. It's a bit, when you open the door you think, oh, there isn't a lot of space, but that is me sitting there, and I would suggest that's not bad space in here. And we've discovered that we're actually using it as a 4-seater more often than I expected, because it's a bit of a giggle, isn't it? You know, people just don't realise what this car can do. And not only that, I recently became a granddad, which is, I know, hard to believe, but it's got Isofix in the back, and I can take my little grandson out as well. So it's a highly practical, shopping sort of car. So we're really enjoying it. Right, let's go and have a look at a few more stuff at the front. Other options, I went for black roof, so painted black roof rather than body colour, and then forged wheels as well, the lightweight wheel option. I just want to show you under the bonnet as well, because it's pretty special under here. Here is this supercharged 5 litre V8. And in Project 8, what I didn't realise was the amount of work they had to do to get it to 600 horsepower. Basically, the supercharger has a different size pulley, so it's slightly quicker. But the big change was the intakes. How do they get more air into this engine? So this has unique airflow meters, bigger airflow meter and intake to get more volume into the engine. The intake, the cold air intake is here, which seals on the bonnet. So it guarantees it gets the coolest air possible into it. And the reason it doesn't have a cover on it is, well, that's the top of the supercharger there, and it's all to do with how cold you can make the air in there to make the power. And by not having a cover on it that you see on like a F-type SVR or something like that, it just gains 2 or 3 degrees, and that's all horsepower. So it's like minimal gains to get this over 600 horsepower. Now, having owned this car, I just thought, this car is so rapid. It's got to have at least 600 horsepower. So you might have noticed there's another video on YouTube, because last week I went up to Ian Litchfield Motors and said, do you mind putting this on the dyno, because I'd love to know what it's actually producing. And the end result was 620 horsepower on that day. And the reason it sort of goes over is it produces 600 PS, which is 592 horsepower, at a controlled temperature. So if you're at 30 degrees, 35 degrees ambient temperature and at 2,000 metre altitude, you're still going to have 592 horsepower. Come down and live in the Cotswolds, and that day was about 18 degrees and it's chilly and there's a bit more damp in the air and it's nearer sea level, and you get 620 horsepower from this engine. If you're on a foggy, damp day and it's sort of just above freezing, you've got even more horsepower. That's sort of the beauty with these supercharged engines. So an easy 600 horsepower in all conditions, this car, and God, does it give it some character, as we'll get to find out in a few moments. Also, I just love the carbon bonnet on this, and as I explained in the previous video, the wings, bonnet, etc. is all carbon. That's all to get rid of weight, and they move the mass of the engine. This car was never meant to have a supercharged V8 in it, so they've really tucked it into the bulkhead. I'm on the centre line of the wheels here, and you can just see how far back they managed to get that engine in this engine bay that, well, basically thought it would just have a 4-cylinder diesel in it, not a 5 litre V8. Anyway, enough of the talk. Let's take it outside, take it for a drive. And here we are. Starts on the button, as you probably expect, and the first thing you have to say is you sit on the left-hand drive only in the Project 8. That's sort of because when you do a limited run car like this, my understanding is you have to do further tests, crash tests, etc. on left-hand, right-hand drive. And not only that, there's an engineering issue when you stuff a great big 5 litre V8 supercharged engine and 4-wheel drive in a car that really ought to have a 4-pot diesel in it. So there wasn't really the space, my understanding is, to actually have the steering mechanism on the other side. Anyway, I quite like left-hand drive in a car like this. It's an instant reminder that you're in something very special. You can't buy a right-hand drive F40 unless you're Sultan Brunei, or a Carrera GT, or an Integrale. You could have them converted, but Integrale to left-hand drive, Chiron, Veyron. There's a whole host of very exclusive cars that are left-hand drive only, so I think it's quite nice to be a member of that club. Then, well, it's a well-presented dash, as you would expect, and if you're going to live with this car, my intention is to use this a lot. Then it's very nice. Nice surprises I've noticed. I'm not really using the ventilation. I'm not trying to turn it down when it's on auto. It doesn't go crazy. You get a suede wheel here, much bigger paddles for changing, and it instantly comes up with a dynamic dash layout. So I've got 2 red speedo and rev counter. So actually the first thing I do is I nudge it down 1 to comfort, because I've got the bumpiest access road to my house, so I always just nudge it down to comfort. For the trip out and onto some better roads, right, it's better roads now, so back up to dynamic What I quite like about the system, there's one below comfort called economy. Seems a bit weird in a car like this, but it is there. I don't know, it seems to work. I've had occasional runs down to Goodwood this month and also to Gatwick, and I can't get over that. I can actually get over 30 mpg. Normal running around like this, I'm about 25, 26, which is pretty good really. Another thing of note is when you're in dynamic, it doesn't actually open the valves on the exhaust, which I think is a plus. You have to manually say, yeah, I want a noisy car, and press a button, which I think they're fairly antisocial at times. Noisy exhaust. There's a big truck. Let's see where we are. We're all right. Yes, we're all right. Oh, well, there you go. First burst of acceleration. You're left in no doubt. There is a real plus of having that supercharged engine. It's just instantaneous. It's torque limited to 700 Newton meters by the gearbox, but yeah, it soon starts shoving out proper horsepower. And as soon as you get into a turbo car and then jump back into this, it's a big reminder of why superchargers are good things in many ways if you actually want a car with instant response. Then you've got to think about, when I was chewing over whether to get this car, one of the things you sort of think, oh, but is it a bit too heavy to make a track car? It's 1750 kilos. But the thing about that weight is that it is all up and with fuel. And quite a lot of manufacturers are hiding behind dry weights and things. 1750 puts it 10 kilos heavier than the new Aston Martin Vantage, for example, according to Evo's figures. They weighed one recently on a group test. It's also the same weight as the Nissan GTR. So, yes, it would be nice if it was lighter, but it's competitive at that weight. And then you've got to remember, well, this drivetrain basically also goes in, well, it's going to be in the F-Pace SVR, where it's at least 250, 300 kilos lighter than that car. And then things like the Range Rover Sport or the Lamborghini Urus or something, these big, powerful SUVs, they weigh a lot. And similar, again, four-wheel drive, similar sort of horsepower and engines, you're 500, nearly 600 kilos lighter than those, half a ton lighter. So the weight, yeah, you have to, think, well, hang on a minute, what is this car's competitive? You're actually against the GT3, well, yes, they're about 200 to 300 kilos lighter. But when I drove it on track, the last thing I was thinking was this weighs too a lot. It is remarkable on track. It was more nimble than I expected. You never sense the four-wheel drive in track and dynamic. All the power is at the rear, on the rear axle, and then it bleeds the front when necessary. And round Goodwood, my goodness, it just devoured that track. And a big surprise was I ordered it with head-up display, and that is really good on track, because when you're clipping apex and you're just pushing a bit hardies, you notice, because it's right in your eyesight, that I was 132 through the kink, and I could add a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour as I was going through. Same thing on the straight. When do I start braking? What speed am I braking? And poof! I've really liked head-up display on track. What else about it? Well, it's a normal driving position, and may seem daft, but if you're stepping down in a car and your eye line is much lower, it can get tedious, because as we all know these days, you spend a lot of time going slowly in cars on a daily basis, and I want that comfort and that visibility from being sat slightly higher and on a very good seat. This is fully adjustable electric seats in here. I'm very comfy in here. Obviously the fixed buckets have more support on the shoulder, but this isn't too bad, and it's got Alcantara sensors. I really like the seats on there, and they're pretty slim, as you saw, so there's space behind them. Anyway, what I need to do now is get a bit of a move on, because we've got a booking. Yeah, we're in an hour's time. We're going to be on track with the V-Box connected, and we'll go and have a bit of fun doing some acceleration runs. See you later. Right, I got here a bit late, so we're in a bit of a rush to get these times. On track, I've got about 150 mile an hour straight here. Everything's set up. I'm in track mode, traction control is off. I'm going to dial up 2000 revs and just floor it and see what happens. Right, here we go. In first, set the V-box running, revs, here we go. Probably going to be compromised on 150 because we're in full attack mode on the aero. But let's see what we've got there. We have a 0 to 100 time in the 7s. Can't quite read it, but I'll read it out when we've stopped. A 0 to 30 time 1.6. 0 to 60 of 3.6. Let's just see if we can get a bit better than that. Have another go. Okay. Now, we're going to try something a bit different this time. We have settled, basically, if I give you the times, what we've got. We have a best 0 to 30 time of 1.6, a best 0 to 60 time 3.59, and a best 0 to 100 of 7.65. Pretty impressive figures for, as I say, 4-door saloon, and a 30 to 70 of 2.8 seconds dead. But what I want to see is if I actually put it into eco mode, which is a separate setting, nothing to do with dynamic. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slow down now. It's done stop start. So I want to see how fast it goes 0 to 60 from a dead start with the stop start working, so the engine's not running, up to 100 miles an hour. Here we go. Oh. Still goes pretty quick. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Still tramping on 20, 30. I don't know if they're going to get 140 and 150. Yeah, it still does 150 in eco mode. So there we are. That was from a dead stop. The engine had to start, and we did. Let's just have a little look at what 0 to 100 was then. 0 to 100 was 8.4 seconds. So in 8.4 seconds, this car has said, oh, it wants to go, started the engine, and then torn off, and then the slowest gear changes, etc. It still does 0 to 100 in 8.4 seconds. It also gets to 150 in 19.3 seconds. In eco mode. Pretty impressive. Right, I need to get off here because I've lost my time on here, and they're going to be chasing me out of here if I don't disappear, and I'll do a final conclusion once I'm back on the road. Right, I'm out of the test centre. I needed to get off because I'd gone beyond my time limit, so let's have a little closer look at the acceleration times we just achieved on there. 0 to 30, I'm just looking which is the best. 0 to 30, 1.55, so 1.55 to 30, that's a pretty good start, but that's the four-wheel drive for you. 0 to 60 time 3.59 seconds, 0 to 100 7.87 seconds, so that was the best. Sorry, it wasn't 7.6, 7.87 seconds. Still flipping rapid, it has to be said. Okay, we did 0 to 150 miles an hour we did in 18.7 seconds. We did quarter mile 11.84 seconds, 123 miles an hour for a quarter mile. Oh my goodness, that's rapid. 11.84 seconds for a quarter mile, 123 mile an hour. 1/8 of a mile, 7.82, 98 miles an hour on that particular run. and a half mile we did 18.39 seconds and 149.3 miles an hour. So there you go, that's the performance figures. I'm impressed by that. As I say, what gets me about this car is its usability. I've commuted, I've left it at, you know, Gatwick long-term car park, I've trundled up and down the motorway, and I've also used it on track at Goodwood, and it so impressed me there. And then this usability, that is the advantage of it being a Jaguar XE. Some people think it's a disadvantage being based on a Jaguar XE, but I actually think it's an advantage. Let's put it into comfort. What I look for in a collector car like this is something that gives me a unique driving experience, and this does it. There is nothing like a Project 8 to drive. The best cars are like that. I'll go right up the stratosphere. There is nothing like a Ferrari F40 to drive. Nothing at all. A Carrera GT, the only way to experience that experience that it gives you is with a Carrera GT. There's nothing before or after. And if I buy a GT3, a Porsche 911 GT3, I'm always niggled whether I should have the 991 Gen 2 or should I have the 997 Gen 2 or the RS, etc. And I find that I'm never quite satisfied. I always think I've got the wrong Porsche. That's what I love about this Project 8. It's unique, it's usable, and it chuffing flies, as you can see. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.